And then she proceeds to make her way back up this cliff. She has no hands.
God.
She climbs up this 30-foot cliff.
Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of the Family School of Thought. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week. We're having really good weather here in Michigan. It's been really nice. It was up in the 90s today.
Mm-hmm.
And how about you guys? How's your week going?
It's good. It's a 4-day work week, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Cass,
It's
you
actually
probably get
3.5
lots of time off
work.
for holidays, don't you?
What?
You probably get lots of time off for the holidays.
No. But I already work 4-day work weeks, so
Yes.
I work that every week.
Yeah.
Good.
My week is actually 3.5 days because I have a
Yeah.
half day Friday.
Well, my work week, I had, let's see, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So,
He has 2-day work week.
It was-
okay. Okay, let's get going this week. Jess, I know you got some fantastic, unbelievable history.
I got some history unexplained mystery facts for you. This one is Raphael's Portrait of a Young Man. I was excited about this one because Odin's really into Ninja Turtles right now. So
Okay.
exciting, right? So the artist Raphael's Portrait of a Young Man is touted as the most well-known painting to have ever been stolen by the Nazis during World War II. Raphael crafted the work around 1513, and it is thought to be a self-portrait. The painting was originally taken after the Nazis invaded Poland in 1939, when numerous valuable paintings from the Karczewski Museum were stolen in were hidden in private residences. The Gestapo, yes, thank you, uncovered them and sent them to be included in Hitler's private art collection. Hans Frank, one of Hitler's associates, brought the painting back from Germany to Poland in early 1945 to display in a royal residence. It was in Wawel Castle in Krakow, Poland, and it was there when the portrait of the young man was last seen. Soon after, Frank was arrested for his war crimes, and after the trials, his possessions were surveyed for missing works, but the portrait of the young man was never found. And the painting, if it resurfaced today, experts claim that it would be worth more than $100 million. So,
Wow.
if you have it, maybe you should sell
I'm
it.
not telling you.
But, you know, what happens is probably it's in someone's basement right now and they just don't know what they have, you know, or it's being sold at a garage sale somewhere.
Oh, God. Could you imagine?
Yeah, wouldn't it be
Well,
something?
I would imagine somebody's got it, and I think they probably know who's got, what it is.
Probably.
It's probably some,
It's probably hidden in some safe somewhere.
Right.
So,
Well, there's lots of art that come up missing at that
Missing.
time. Stolen at that time.
Yeah.
Missing. And jewelry
mhm.
that the queen was wearing. Anyways, it's not good.
You mean the big diamond that was in her crown?
Lots of her jewelry.
The blood diamond.
Lots of her jewelry came was stolen. But anyways,
Before we move on, I just want to re-correct myself. I think I said gazpacho, and it is Gestapo.
Okay.
you know what?
But it was
You did.
famously
I was
called
gonna correct you.
gazpacho by
Yeah.
what's her?
Yeah. Well,
You
that's
did.
what I screwed up the first time, and I knew I was going to get it right. So
I know. I do want to re-correct myself. That it's Gestapo, not gazpacho. That is a
I don't
food.
know what I said the first time, but it screwed me up. So.
You said it right. You were saying it right when I corrected you, and I said gazpacho.
I was I was just gonna let it go.
I know. So I was gonna let it go, but I also don't want people to think we actually think it's called gazpacho.
Gazpacho.
Gotcha.
So, well,
You got another one?
I do have another one, but this one is pretty well known. I think everybody kind of knows it. This one is the Zodiac Killer. I don't know if maybe we should save it, but it's such a well-known story. But between 1968 and 1969, the Zodiac Killer murdered 5 people in Northern California. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Farron, Cicely Shepard, and Paul Stein. The Zodiac Killer, one of the most infamous serial killers to successfully evade capture, gained special notoriety by touting the investigators. Following each murder done by either stabbing or shooting, the killer sent letters and cryptograms containing astrological references to the police and to the media, demanding that they be front page news. And because of this, the Zodiac Killer case has been the subject of countless documentaries, books, and even mainstream movies. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, he's in it.
Zodiac movie. Yeah.
Only those two got it.
Okay. I know. Now I lost my spot. Even with these clues in the victims who survived the attacks by the Zodiac Killer, the identity of the killer continues to elude investigators. Detectives are hopeful that new DNA technology may eventually put the serial killer behind bars, even half a century later. An independent group of investigators calling themselves the Case Breakers have claimed that they believe they've identified the killer, but the FBI and local officials have not confirmed this assertion, saying that the case remains open. So there you go. I think that's I don't think we'll ever really cover the Zodiac Killer on this one too. I mean, we could do a bigger deep dive because it's pretty interesting on that one. But
Never say never on that one.
I know. I guess I said that about Loch Ness Monster, and there we go. So
how about you said that they know who it is, but they can't confirm it?
No, it's the Case Breakers say that they know who it is. So it's an investigation group. So they probably have they have some key evidence, but not enough to really confirm it.
Yes.
Or because you can't just say, oh, by the way, Ted is the Zodiac Killer, because that's just slander, and
so they have named him, but the person that they named is deceased, so there is no real way to kind of test that theory.
Yeah.
There's no way we could get it.
But he died in 2011, so he was alive for the movie to come out. Yeah. He was alive for all the theories to get.
And that's what with the Zodiac Killer, a lot of this, because he did the cryptograms and did all the secret codes and stuff like that, he really was in it to become famous as the
infamous.
Zodiac. Yeah. So I mean, that's something. But the Golden Gate Killer, he was identified decades later.
Yeah.
No, he's alive.
No.
Yeah, he's alive. He's in prison now. But he was identified, or really confirmed to be identified through genealogy,
ancestry.
Ancestry. Yeah. So through DNA stuff. But I do think that I can never remember the comedian's name or his wife. She wrote the book.
Patton Oswalt and no. McNamara.
Yes, McNamara.
So awesome. Tip of my tongue.
We've all read the book. It's a great book.
Yes.
But I do think that her dedication and obsessiveness over the Golden Gate Killer cases, I think she's the main reason that they got as far
she
as
is
in the recent history, because
she definitely is
so detailed, and I gotta look.
So her name is Michelle McNamara, and she was a true crime writer. She just blogged about true crime, basically what we do. And so she got on the case of the Golden State Killer, and he had not been identified. He was still even being called
the Night Stalker, right?
No, Because that was the thing, was that he was getting called the original Night Stalker. He was being called the original Night Stalker, but that was also being confused with Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Right. Yeah.
And so they renamed him the Golden State Killer, and she renamed him. Like, she was in the, like, she renamed him the Golden State Killer, and she got involved with like a private detective and some other like detectives that were on like the case, that were still on the case. Because it hadn't been solved, and this was like in like 2000 and like 2011. And she basically helped solve the case of who the Golden State Killer was, because she helped the detectives get information, get genealogy, all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it was public. I'll Be Gone in the Dark was published in 2018. So it's a new book.
Published.
It's I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and it's by Michelle McNamara. And but it was published in 2018, but I think she started it way before that, because she died while she was still writing it. So like the end part of the book is I don't want to say unfinished, but it's
not from her not
and then
her.
There's a lot of like stuff that is just blank almost, because they didn't know where she was going.
Right. Well, and also, Mom, she died before he was identified.
Right.
So she died from like exhaustion, because she was like so involved in this case. She was taking like medication and stuff.
Did we not discuss
We've discussed it many times. I don't know. We probably have discussed it on this podcast before, but
maybe because I remember talking about it, and I couldn't remember if I was talking to you or Kat or Jess, but it seemed like
we've all read the book. I think.
Read the book.
I have not read that book. But you had it on audio or something. Maybe you were telling me about it.
I read the book.
I have I think I have Jess's copy of the book, which I can send back to you.
Well, maybe
she gave it to me. I gave it to somebody else, and then they give it back. So then I gave it to you. So, it's made the round.
I didn't read it.
You know, I do have a stamp now, so from now on, all my books will say it's from the library.
Jesse's Jesse Stromer's on there.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I do. Yep. So now I can.
Should I donate my books?
Yes.
Well, right now, I really have nowhere to put them. So
I got a lot of good books.
Until we make a library, I have crates and crates of books, but nowhere to put them. So.
Okay. All right.
We're off topic.
And I own every book of, Yeah.
How about Jess? Do you have anything else?
That is it. Those are the two history unexplained mysteries that they have.
But they could go back and get his DNA, or just because he's.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
I don't know. They said that they can't, but I don't know. Maybe that's just they don't have enough proof. They probably need more proof than these clues they're giving them.
So when did he stop murdering people? He just stopped on his own?
The Zodiac Killer? I feel like he did.
Well, they can't prove any other victims, basically. So that doesn't mean that he stopped killing. It just means that he stopped, basically confessing to murders. Because that was the thing, is that they only knew it was the same person because he kept confessing to the murders.
Yeah, so really the span of his crimes, the confirmed, is 1968 and 1969.
Oh.
But victims, there's a claim. There's only been 5 confirmed deaths, 2 injuries, possibly 20 to 28 total dead, but there's a claim of 37 that were killed.
Okay. All right.
So
I'll have to freshen up on that Zodiac Killer.
Well, there you go. You know what? Maybe we should do a story on that one. Maybe we should. Because it's interesting, and I think everybody kind of knows. There's no reason not to. So,
because isn't that odd? I mean, is it odd that they never did?
No, because I mean, if we do the story, I don't want to spoil it too much, but basically it was just a really crap job detective-wise. Nobody wanted to work with each other. They probably could have caught him very easily but they
Isn't
just
that the story of like every true crime thing.
Yeah, that's unfortunately
That's kind of
that,
a story
especially back in the
itself.
70s, they didn't have a lot of basically any kind of work to work around serial killers. Like that's why there were so many that went unsolved for so long, or didn't get solved until later in the years, is because they just didn't have the processing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Michelle McNamara was very dedicated to solving that case, so we could get on this.
Well, that one's the golden.
Well,
State.
somebody did pretty much the same thing.
Oh,
well, somebody did that.
Michelle McNamara. Well, unfortunately, she's dead, so she can't.
No,
get
I mean us four here could get on.
Oh, I get it. Wow, that was really confusing to me.
Went over your head, Jess. But Dad, somebody already did. That's like the whole point of Jesse's facts, is that somebody did that. They just can't prove that the person they say did it. that he is the Zodiac killer.
All right. Okay, Cass, let's hear your song for the week.
Sure. So my song this week is a pretty much quintessential 90s song, especially a band. If you don't know the song, you know the band, but this is Spice Up Your Life by the Spice Girls.
Spice Girls!
Yeah, so this one is more fan theory than it is actual. So this song is like a dancing mix. It was played in a lot of clubs. It's played to when you just got to dance it out. That's the whole point of the song, right?
Right.
Well, some listeners have claimed that this is not about dancing, that this song is about crystal meth and doing crystal meth and cooking crystal meth. And it's specifically because of some of the lyrics in the chorus, which are slam it to the left, shake it to the right, which is a common phrase used in cooking meth. And it has gone so far as to be in the show Breaking Bad in the third season. And people have said that is why they made the song, is about cooking meth.
Wow.
Crazy.
It's never been confirmed, but many people say that this is in exact directions to cooking meth. I don't know what that means. Never cooked meth before. But if you slam it to the left and shake it to the right, you cook meth.
I am not up on my Spice Girls music either.
Well, this is a really good song.
Yep.
I mean, Spice Girls, especially their first album. I owned the CD.
You did?
I did. I got it from one of our family members who brought it because it was one of the demos that I think when they were being released in the United States. And so I pulled it out of a box because it was a bunch of girls, and lo and behold, it became, a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of good music came about us that way. I remember getting the Dixie Chicks CD. I'm like, who's the Dixie Chicks?
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I'm like, who's the Spice Girls? I've never heard of them. I don't know. Whenever they first came out.
That was always fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. But I didn't like the Spice Girls when I did hear them. Dixie Chicks I did. But anyways.
Well, Spice Girls.
You gotta spice up your life.
Yeah. They even have a movie.
Yeah. It was a strange movie, but it is a movie.
I mean, look at their music videos. They're all a little strange.
That's your song for the week. Spice up your life. Okay. Is it about meth or is it about dancing?
I don't know. My question is, which Spice Girl are you?
Sporty. Duh.
What are you, Jeff?
Ginger.
How about you, G?
I did dress up as Ginger Spice for homecoming week in high school because I had bright red hair, but that was it.
Well, if you were not part of a girl group that designated each person as a Spice Girl, you weren't really friends. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
All right. I'm totally
growing up in the 90s. There you go.
Don't know. Crazy.
I feel like I had something to say about that, but now I forgot.
It would have been about when I was like Danielle's age. 97.
No,
yeah, it was released in 97.
Well, all those girls are still looking good, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the one that's married to the soccer player?
That's Posh Spice.
Victoria.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Well, that was very interesting. Okay. Cass, I think you're up this week, am I right?
I am up this week.
Okay.
And I kind of have a gruesome one. It's pretty bad, but it is a survival story. So.
Oh, good. I like that, but I don't like.
We'll see. We'll see if you'll like it.
You're spicing it up with the Spice Girls.
I'm spicing it up with the gruesome.
Hey, before we get going, Jesse, do you have anything you want to tell our listeners?
What?
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yes. Hit that like button. We really need it. And share our podcast with everybody you know. Make it sound really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It is really.
I think that's our job, to be honest.
Well, I know, but tell your
friends. They don't know what they're missing.
Tell them you're riveted to it and you can't wait for each week to come out.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
We need some listeners, and if anybody's got an idea on how we can figure out overall our listeners, that would be great. Not just
or if you have a story idea, give us a shout out. Send us an email at thefamilyschoolofthought@gmail.com.
Very good. Very good.
There you go.
Okay, Cass.
Perfect.
Let's hear your story.
All right. So this is the survival story of Mary Vincent. Mary was born in 1963. She was one of 7 children. And when she was around 15 years old, in 1978, she ran away from home because of her parents' messy divorce. And she lived on the streets for a while, and then later hitchhiked from Las Vegas, where she lived, to California, where she had relatives. I think her grandfather was where she went. And she lived with him for some time before she became homesick and she wanted to hitchhike back home. Mind you, she's 15 years old. Mary was hitchhiking home to Las Vegas from California. She was actually in Berkeley, California, where she was flagging down cars. She also I don't think she was like traveling with them, but there was 2 hitchhikers at the time with her that were also flagging down cars. And she was very, very tired. She said she was exhausted. And at the time, an old man in a van pulls up, and this is going to be Lawrence Singleton. He tells all 3 of the hitchhikers that he only has room in his van for 1 person. And this immediately sends off red flags to the other 2 hitchhikers. They don't want Mary to get in the van, but she's exhausted and she just wants to go home. So she's too tired to really complain about it. And he seems old and nice. She says she reminded him of a grandfather. So she gets in the car and leaves with him. And he says that he will take her to Los Angeles. But apparently she said that he claimed he was going to Reno and she's going to Las Vegas, so she didn't really understand why he could only take her to Las Vegas or to Los Angeles. But again, she gets in the van anyway. She pretty much immediately falls asleep. She's so tired. And when she awakes, she notices that he has gone the completely wrong direction. And she confronts him about it. She says, "This is not where you told me you were going to go. You told me you were going to take me to Los Angeles." And they were like out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And he says, "Oh, it was a mistake. I'm really sorry. I'll turn around, no problem. But I just need to go to the bathroom real quick." So he gets out of the van, goes out of her vision sight, basically. And she realizes like this probably was a big mistake. She gets very uncomfortable. But she thinks, he's old and he's not very fit, so she'll just try to escape. She'll just try to get away from him. So she also gets out of the van. And I think they said she was going to tie her shoe basically so she could start running. Before she can do that, she is knocked unconscious by Lawrence, who has hit her over the head with a sledgehammer. When she regains conscious again, she's tied up and being raped by Lawrence in the back of his van. She begs Lawrence to stop, to take her home. She just wants to go home. But he doesn't stop. He rapes her for a very long time, pretty much all night. But once he is finished, he lets her out of the van, and she thinks she's going to be able to go home. Instead, he grabs a hatchet and proceeds to chop off both of her arms at just below the elbow.
Oh.
Or I think just above the elbow. Mary goes into shock pretty much immediately. She can't really fathom what has just happened. She said she had grabbed onto him, and so all of a sudden she was on the ground and she couldn't really understand what happened. And he was trying to basically get her hand, which had been stuck to his arm, which had been grabbing his arm, off of his arm. But she's in shock. She can't really understand what's going on. And he actually picks her up and throws her down a 30-foot cliff ravine and drives off, leaving her for dead. But she does survive the fall. Obviously, this is a survival story. But she knows that she has her forearms are basically cut off, and she has to stop the bleeding. She's bleeding profusely. She's at the bottom of this ravine. She has broken ribs. So she basically takes the bleeding ends of her arms and sticks them in mud to make them crusted mud pack and stop the bleeding, or slow the bleeding at least. And then she proceeds to make her way back up this cliff. She has no hands. She climbs up this 30-foot cliff. And it takes all day. It takes hours and hours and hours to make it up this cliff, but she makes it up. She makes it to the road. The road that she's on is basically just it's a dirt, not a dirt road, but it's basically a back road. But she can hear traffic from the interstate, basically. So it's just off of the highway. So she starts walking, and she walks about 3 miles along the road, trying to find any cars or anybody to pass by. Mind you, she is naked, covered in blood, and has both of her arms chopped off. She says the first car that she sees, basically stopped, took one look at her, and sped off. And she has come forward to say she does not blame them at all. She looked like she was out of a horror film. She wouldn't have stopped for them or for her. But they drive away. And then soon after, a couple on their honeymoon who had taken the wrong exit and were trying to find their way back to the interstate drive past her. Stop. Well, they stop. So they stop and pick her up and basically take her to, they call emergency services. They get to a payphone and basically call an emergency. And she is airlifted to a hospital. So they save her life. And she has lost, so she gets to the hospital. She's airlifted to the hospital. She has lost half of the blood in her body. But even still, she says she refuses to go to sleep, basically go under, be put to sleep until she talks to police. And she gives them such a good description of Lawrence that the picture that they draw, like the sketch artist draws, is when they put it on the news, Lawrence's own neighbor, who he was friendly with, saw the picture immediately and said, "That's Lawrence Singleton," and turned him into the police. And so he is arrested, and he is sent to jail, basically. And I think he has yet to basically confess that he tried to murder her. I think he even says like he was in the van with multiple guys. She was in there with she was basically selling herself, and that's why she was in the van. And that he wasn't the one to amputate her arms and throw her down the cliff. It was his friend, which obviously is a lie because he calls his friend Larry, which seems like a nickname for Lawrence.
Yeah.
But he is still arrested and he is sent to trial. Only 6 months after this horrifying attack, Mary Vincent, who is, again, maybe 16 at this time, she's maybe 16 years old, she faces off against Lawrence in court when she testifies against him. And her testifying basically sealed his conviction. So he is convicted of kidnapping, rape, mayhem, and sodomy in 1979. Shortly after she as she's leaving the stand, Lawrence Singleton looks at Mary Vincent and says, "If it's the last thing I do, I will finish the job." But still, she stands strong. 16-year-old against, I think at the time he was like 60.
Mm-hmm.
And he is convicted. The max sentence at this time for all of those charges, rape, sodomy, mayhem, kidnapping, attempted murder, I'm sure, all of them in California at the time, the maximum sentence was 14 years in prison. Maximum. And the judge at the time did say if she could, I don't know if it was a she, the judge said at the time if they could give him life in prison, they would. Some reason they can't. I don't know. But it gets worse because maximum 14 years. Lawrence only serves 8 years of that sentence. And he is paroled on good behavior.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Thankfully, during his parole, they basically tried to put him in multiple locations in California. And each location that they tried to place him in, he is basically run out of town by the residents once they find out he is there, because all of California is overly upset that he is out of jail. Yeah. That he only got 14 years to begin with, and then that they paroled him to begin with. So every town that they try to place him in for parole, they run him out of town, they riot, they protest. So he is eventually, basically, they just move a trailer home onto the grounds of San Quentin Prison, which is where he had served 8 years, and had him live there for his entire parole. But he is still paroled. Once parole is done, he is free to go. So he moves to Tampa, Florida, which is where he had grown up. But again, he is not received well. Once the townspeople there find out he has moved in, he is threatened. A bomb goes off near his house. He is bribed by multiple people to leave Tampa. So again, still residents, once they find out he is there, try to get him out. They try to move him away. And I think he does end up leaving Tampa, but he's still in Florida, and he is arrested a couple times for petty theft, stupid things. But in 1997, just a couple years, under 10 years after he assaulted Mary Vincent, Lawrence's neighbor calls police to report that he is assaulting a woman inside his home. When police arrive, Lawrence answers the door covered in blood, and they find the dead body of Roxanne Haynes, who was brutally stabbed to death in his bed. So once again, he goes to jail. Once again, he is put up for trial. And Mary Vincent, who is now 34, she has to travel to Florida and once again testify against him. Once again, basically make sure he gets put in jail. Thankfully, after a short deliberation, he is sentenced to death in Tampa, Florida. But just 4 years after his conviction, he ends up dying in prison of cancer. So he was never put to death by the government. He is now dead. He died in 2001. Was justice served? I don't know. He was convicted, so I guess there's that.
Definitely was not.
Yeah. But Mary has since become a victim's advocate. She is also an artist. She does a lot of painting in her downtime. And she actually has customized her own prosthesis, prosthetic arms. And one of her hobbies is bowling, so she actually has a specific prosthetic for bowling. But she does a lot for victims of abuse and domestic violence and assault. She oftentimes will go and do motivational speeches at, women in power conventions, stuff like that. So thankfully, she's living a very good life. And because of Lawrence Singleton's parole, California actually passed legislature in 1987, which carries, it's called the Singleton Bill, which now carries at least a 25 to life sentence for violent offenders.
So something good came out of it.
Yes, and they also prevent this bill. I don't know if it's this bill or a different legislature, but it came out around the same time, that prevents violent offenders from getting early release.
Nice.
So,
yeah,
this is a very gruesome survival story of a young woman, Mary Vincent, but it does have a very good outcome in most of the stuff.
Yeah,
he should have never been paroled.
If they kept him in prison, the other girl would have been alive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Do you have a picture that you can share with us?
Of Mary?
Yeah.
He looks like a Mary.
I don't have one of Mary. But it's surprisingly since we talked about.
Did you draw a sketch of her?
Yeah. So Mary Vincent is on the side. Yeah. She's a very lovely woman. The guy on the opposite side is obviously Lawrence Singleton.
Let me see this one right here.
But yeah.
Yeah, she looks like a nice lady.
Yes.
Nice young girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But,
wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this this happened around 1978. So it was like right around the same time as the Golden State Killer, and a lot of like the Zodiac Night stalkers were present in California.
And did the other two hitchhikers testify against him?
I don't know if they testified against him, and I don't really know if they were like ever really identified. So all this story basically comes from her, and I think she basically said, like, they told her, like, I don't know if they were ever identified, but she said, like, they did not want me to get in the van.
Yeah. They knew.
Right.
Here, I'm going to share my screen because I was just looking too. It's the sketch drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that's what I was going to say is that, so this picture, this sketch looks a lot like the Zodiac Killer that they sketched as well. So like it was like that during that time, and like he had the very same look as another sketch drawing of Zodiac Killer. But this was the sketch drawing that basically the neighbor saw and was like, no, that's Lawrence.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say, I was gonna look for that picture that Mom just had up. Oh,
Yeah.
There we go. Here, I'm gonna share my screen again because I wonder if I can. Yeah. So that's the picture of him that Mom was just showing.
Yeah.
So that sketch drawing was actually a pretty good sketch.
Yeah.
Right.
Really good.
I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, I can see. It's smart girl.
I switched.
Smart girl.
I switched to share this tab instead. Okay. So there's the sketch. Am I doing that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's the sketch. And then, oops, I did the wrong thing.
And thank goodness for the neighbor calling the police for the second time to turn him in.
Well, I don't think it was the same neighbor both times. I think he just
one
was when he lived in California and the other was when he lived in Florida.
Oh, well, how did they know that he was killing her? Or, I mean, the neighbor.
It was a new neighbor.
Oh.
So his neighbor at the time called police and said something. I don't think maybe they didn't know who it was.
Probably a domestic disturbance.
Yeah, they just called it in, and it just happened to be Lawrence Singleton.
Oh. So sad.
Yeah, but she survived. So.
She survived, yes.
Yeah.
She survived, but
just goes to show you, young girls should not go off on their own.
Cassie?
Anybody shouldn't go off on their own.
Yeah, anybody.
No, right, exactly. Could be male, female.
Mm-hmm. Could look at Jeffrey Dahmer. He didn't murder women. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's why you should always have identifying marks, because that is why they think that he cut her hand off, was to get rid of fingerprints.
Mm.
But you always have identifying marks. You get tattoos. Jeffrey Dahmer didn't like tattoos. He wouldn't eat tattoos. So when you're tattooed and you have identifying marks, they don't get to. Yeah.
Well, or you just have scars. Lots of scars.
Everybody has scars. Who's gonna have a tattoo?
Not in specific areas.
Mm.
Don't go out and get scars. Get tattoos.
No. Yeah. Which is funner? A scar or tattoo?
Well.
Usually scars have a better story. But
depends where you go to get your tattoo.
Maybe.
But there you go. That's your story. Short, sweet.
Right.
That's a good one, though.
That was a good one.
This is actually one of the ones that I've known about forever, and I wanted to do forever, but I always picked something else instead.
So now you know why
I'm
so anxious about you being by yourself. You understand my.
You don't have to tell the world I'm by myself. You don't have to
really. If they ever seen your roommate, they would run for their lives.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
I mean, he's a pretty angry looking guy.
Right. But I know, I mean, you got a roommate, but I don't like that you're way out there.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Okay.
What? Things can happen in Michigan. Things can.
I know.
Just because you're safe at home doesn't mean you're any less likely.
Things can happen in the grocery store.
I know.
Followed in the grocery store before. It's not fun.
You what?
And that's why I always say you should call your mother daily.
Okay. Yep. Call your mother.
But it is crazy that like how much. I mean, I still don't think crimes committed against women have good, sentencing structure. But
right,
it is crazy to think that like back in 1978, 79, the worst that they could do is give you 14 years, and a judge would say like, well, "I wish I could do more, but that's all I can give you for an attempted murder, kidnapping, and rape."
And dismembering.
And dismemberment,
yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean,
that is crazy.
If I would have been her, I think the results would have been a lot different. I don't know that he would have went to prison.
Well, she definitely would have been. She wouldn't have been caught red-handed.
Oh, gosh.
That
was bad.
That was a bad joke.
That was really bad. I don't know. I mean, I think she did an amazing job. The fact that she was, 16 years old.
To know that she put mud all over her hands to stop that bleeding. I mean, she was very smart because she could have bled to death.
Yeah, smart and fearless. Because
could you especially think about
the person that attacks you? You have to like go against them in court and see them and state your
not only that, but then they get paroled 8 years after this.
Yeah,
and you basically have to wonder, like he told her,
I'm gonna.
If it's the last thing I'll do, I'll kill you. And he gets paroled, and she probably just spent years wondering when he was going to show up.
Right. And then to have to look over your shoulders everywhere you go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of your life or until he, you hear that he
died. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So.
But she still, all those years later, still decided to go and testify against him. So she still stood her ground, stood against him.
And that's good. But to have to face that all over again and bring it back to your memory and everything that he'd done to her. To have to go through that twice.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 times, really. I mean,
3, right.
Yeah, right. 3.
They should have
to revisit it.
Her to a Taylor Swift concert.
Why?
Then she would have forgot all about it. Haven't you heard this new phenomenon? That all these people that go to Taylor Swift's concert,
they forget all their troubles.
They forget the concert.
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
No, it's a big phenomenon. They all go. They're all excited.
Did you read that on The Onion?
And then the next day, it was on the national news today and this morning.
It's been all over the news since her concert on Friday night. It was a phenomenal 3-hour show.
And these girls can't remember going.
And everybody didn't go. Everybody is talking and
maybe they told their parents that they were going to go, and they decided not to, and now they came up with a story of why they can't remember what happened.
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
Well, no, these stars. It's not young kids. It's stars that are talking like this.
Well, it's a real thing. There's a name for it. When you get so overly excited about stuff,
you black out.
You forget it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I haven't heard that story.
No, let me get excited, please.
Just saying.
All right. That was a good one, Cass. That's very good.
I guess,
and I'm glad that it was a happy ending because, like you said, stuff like that.
She's doing well.
And she's doing well. Yeah. and helping other people, helping other victims. So that's, that's wonderful.
I agree.
Because our world is a cruel place.
Yes, it is.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Cass, you got anything else to add to it?
No.
You guys got any last thoughts?
And is she living close to home? Or,
I think she still lives in Las Vegas.
Oh,
I think so. Yeah. I think she went back.
Does her dad, like, to this day say, "I told you"?
I don't know. I don't know. I highly doubt it, but I don't know.
Who wasn't hitchhiking in the late 60s?
Right. Like, it was just like such a common thing. Like, there was 2 hitchhikers with her at the time that she had never met before. It was such a common thing. No, the only thing it really says about, her afterlife is that, that she became an artist, did the victims' right advocate, and then she got married, had 2 young boys, and then she did divorce her husband, but that's about it.
That's something. Wow. So how long was she married? Did it say?
10 years.
Shut up,
What did her husband do for a living?
I don't know.
What are her kids' names?
I'm sure it said.
I don't know.
Why did they get divorced?
Probably because it was a pretty traumatic life for her, and so
yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Yeah, I understand.
Because she realized that her happiness does not come from a man, so she divorced them.
Yeah, happiness.
She creates her own happiness.
Right. Yes, sirree.
Who does her hair?
Sharon. Or not Sharon. I don't know.
Who does her nails?
Don't know. Probably herself.
That's not nice.
No, it's not.
But how long were they married?
Enough to have 2 boys.
And
So
that
were they
probably,
even actually
probably
married?
a lot of trauma right there.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's wrap this up. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Again, hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it. Share our site with everybody you know. Make it sound more fascinating and exciting than it is.
Well, we are fascinating and exciting.
We are fascinating. And remember, it's our take on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for your take on these things too. So.
And subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Right. All right. We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Push.